Hi Hayden, it's Miss Tracy. So let's look at the ones that you struggled with on lesson 75. So here's the second problem. It says to graph the equation 5 plus 3y equals x. So the first thing we have to do is take this equation and we've got to put it in the proper format. So 5 plus 3y equals x. So we know the proper format looks like y by itself, right? We have to get y by itself and put the x and the other term on the right side. So let's subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, that removes it. So now we have 3y equals x minus 5. However, we don't want to have a coefficient with the y. We have to have just y by itself. So we divide everything by 3. So then this would cancel, and that would mean we have y is equal to, we know there's a 1 in front of this x, 1/3 x becomes our slope, minus 5 over 3. So our point that we need to graph, the y-intercept point, is going to be 0, -5, and I don't know why my GoodNotes wants to quit. It's been giving me all kind of issues. Let me see if I can get it to come back open. All right, here we go. All right, maybe down a little bit. There we go. All right, so back to where we were. Our first point is going to be 0 and this -5 over 3. Okay, if we turn that into a mixed number, that would be 1 2/3. So you could actually do that. That'd be fine. So -1 2/3, right? That would be your first point. So we would come down here on the y-axis and find -1, and then 2/3 more would be about right here. And that would be your first point. Now our slope is positive. So it's going to be up 1 and over 3. So if we come from -1 2/3 to just -2/3, that's 1, and then over 1, 2, 3. So that'd be the next point. Let's do that again. Come up to 2/3 of the next number and go 1, 2, 3. And that would be where your line lives. So you would draw a line through those points as good as you possibly can. And that would be how you would answer that problem. Okay? But this 1/3, this slope, this is, when it's positive, you're going to rise the number of spaces here, and then you're going to go to the right, the number of spaces here. And that's what we did. We made one jump here, and then 1, 2, 3 jumps. And then another whole jump here, and then 1, 2, 3 jumps. So that's what we did to find our next 2 points. Okay? There's another technique that you can do, and we learned that in pre-algebra if you remember the table. So the table method is where we would take this 1/3 x minus 5 over 3, and we would put in a term for x, and we would get the term for y. Remember doing that? You could always do that, right? You could always set up your table and get points that way. And let's say 0 is the term, the x term, then you would say 1/3 times 0 is 0 minus 5/3. So minus 5/3 is that first point, right? That would be the first point. And then let's say that x is equal to 1. Actually, I'm going to say x is equal to 3, just because it's easier to do the math when you use a multiple of the denominator. So 3. So 1 over 3 times 3 would be 1 minus 5/3. 1 minus 5/3, well, that's 1 2/3. 1 minus 1 2/3, so that'd be a minus 2/3. Well, that's where we were. We were at -2/3 right here on the 3 line. So on the 6 line, you would say 6 over 3 would be 2 minus 1 2/3 would be a positive 1/3, which is where we are, the positive 1/3 mark right there. So, and the 6. So those are your points. You had 0 and a negative 5/3 for the first point. Then you had 3 and negative 2/3 for the second point. And then you had 6 and positive 1/3 for the third point. And you could get there either by counting your slope or by doing your table like we used to do in pre-algebra. If it is a difficult number, like a fraction that's weird, when you have your formula here, do the table. Don't try to count it if it looks weird and it's hard to count. Just do the table, put in your points, use a multiple of the denominator to find your points, or to find for your x terms to find these point values. It's going to be a lot easier that way. And then you don't have to count and try to guesstimate. But this is what we were looking for. And that's 2 ways that you can find the points. And then if you do 3 points, then it makes your line straighter just in drawing it for some reason. 2 points is fine, but you have to have at least 2 points. You can't just do 1. You have to have at least 2 points. And if you do that third point, your line just ends up being straighter for some reason. All right, don't forget to draw your arrows on the end, because the answer is this line in this position going on and on forever in both directions. It's, not just the points. It's every point in that line. So let's look at the next one. All right, so here was the next problem. We had to find the equation of these lines. So let's do A first. Whenever you have a flat line, there's no slope. Slope means angle. So if it's flat, it does not have an angle. So we would write the line that is flat like this. You look at the axis that it's crossing, and here it is crossing the y-axis. So whatever axis, if you have a flat line or a straight up and down line, whatever axis it's crossing is the letter that you write. Okay, so horizontal lines flat across, that's going to be a y because it's crossing the y-axis. And then all you do is you find the point that it crosses at, and here it's a -3. Y is equal to -3. That would be the answer for A. Because it doesn't matter what you put in for x. X could be +3. X could be -4. The y is still 3. So here we have 3, -3, -4, -3. Doesn't matter what point we pick. The y is always equal to -3, and that's what this is telling us. Okay, all right, so let's look at B. So for B, what we have to do is we have to find the slope. We're going to use the y. It does have an angle, so we are going to use this format for the line. Whenever it has an angle, we use that format. Okay, so first, we can see really obviously where it is crossing the y-axis. That goes here. So y is equal to mx plus 3. Oops, and it did it again. I don't know what is going on with this program, but it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Let me go back in here and open it again. It's just wonky today. I don't know why. All right. So, where were we? Okay. So, it's at the +3. So, that would be the +3 right here. This is the place. The B is where it crosses the y-axis. So, whatever that point is, whatever that y point is, that is what goes right in here, the y point. Now the actual point is going to be paired with 0. This is 0 for x and 3 for y. So 0 and 3 would be the actual coordinate point. But we only write the value of the y here. Now here we need to put in the slope. And there's a couple of ways to do that. You can do it mathematically, or you can count. Counting is easier. So let's look at how we're going to get from this point to this point. So we're just going to count. So if we look, it's going down. The angle from left to right is down. So it's going to be negative. So we're going to go down, and that's going down 1, 2 spaces. So down 2, and then it's going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So to the right 4. So it is going to be a negative 2 because it's down. So the slope is negative 2 over 4. Whenever you can reduce a fraction, you should. So this is actually negative 1 over 2. And this is what we're going to put in here. Okay, that was this information here. We reduce the fraction, we're going to put in for slope. So now we have y is equal to negative 1/2, that's the slope, x plus 3. That's all your parts, and that would be the answer for B, and this is the answer for A. Okay, so let's look at the next one. All right, here's the next one. We have to find the equation of the below lines. So here we have one that is perfectly straight up and down. Perfectly straight up and down. And it is crossing the x-axis. So for C, crossing the x-axis, x is equal to, it's positive 3. That's it. That's what you'd put in here. X is equal to 3. And that is because it doesn't matter where you put a point on the y. Like here we have positive 3, negative 2. And up here we have positive 3, negative 3. The x is always 3. No matter, I could put another point here, and we could say that it is 3, positive 1. It doesn't matter where you put a point on this line. X is always equal to 3. So x is equal to 3. That is the equation of the line. And that's what you would do for C. We're going to do the same thing we did on the previous problem for line D. We use this because it has an angle to it. We're going to use our linear equation or our equation of the line. So we're going to start with the place that it crosses the y-axis, and that's positive 3. So y is equal to mx plus 3 because it's positive 3, all right? So now we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to figure out our path to the next point. And this one is positive. It's going up. So it's going up how much? 1, 2. And it's going to the right how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to the right 4. So it's a positive 2 over 4. So 2 over 4 would equal 1/2. This is our slope right here. So y is equal to 1/2, and it did it again. I don't know what the heck is going on. It just keeps quitting on me. I hope you're starting to get the hang of this and see how that goes together. The slope always goes here, and slope is just a way to say the angle of the line. You have your rise over your run or your sink over your run. It just depends on whether it's going uphill or downhill. If it's uphill, it's going to be a positive number here, and if it's downhill, it's going to be a negative number here. This is the answer for D. And it didn't take us a whole lot of math to get there. It's just understanding the different parts. Okay? So find your pathway to get from one point to the next. Figure out if it's positive or negative. If it goes up, it's positive. If it goes down, it's negative, just like in our previous problem. And then if you can reduce the fraction, reduce the fraction. The up or down always goes in the top, and the right always goes in the bottom. And that's all you have to do. So let's look. I think there's one more. So here we have three lines. Sorry, I can't count today. And I see this one is going up, so it's going to have positive slope. This one's going downhill, it's going to have a negative slope. And this one is going downhill, it's going to have a negative slope also. So the thing that we need to do is to be able to find the equation of line for each one. So we know every one of them is going to be in y is equal to slope times x plus b format, or the y-intercept format. And the reason it's called the y-intercept format is because it tells us where it intercepts the y-axis with this b variable right here. So for A, let's do it first. We see that on the number 7 here is where it crosses. So that's going to be positive 7. And we see here, let's find our pathway. And our pathway goes up and over, right? So it goes up 1 and it goes over 2. So that's 1 over 2 is our slope. So y is equal to 1 over 2 x plus 7. That's the answer for A, right there. All right, let's look at B. So let's look at, we don't have where it crosses the y-axis. So what we have to do is solve for that. And the way that we're going to solve for that is by taking one of the points and finding the slope and substituting in. So first we're going to find the slope on this problem. So we go to our pathway, and our pathway is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. It's down 4, so that's a negative 4, and it's over 1. So over 1. So it's negative 4 over 1 is just equal to negative 4. So we have our slope. We can write that as y is equal to negative 4x plus b, because we still don't have where it crosses the y-axis, so we can't do our b yet. But to get there, one of the ways when you can't see it, if it doesn't show it, one of the ways that you can find that is to take one of these points, and here we have 3, 4. We're going to use that point and substitute it in to tell us where this is. So the 4 is the y, negative 4, and it did it again. My goodness. That is annoying for it to keep doing this. All right. So we're subbing in the 4 for the y and the 3 for the x. So negative 4 times 3 plus b. So this is going to be negative 12 plus b. Now we're going to add 12 to both sides. Did it again. Oh, goodness. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix it. All right. We're trying some more. All right. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That cancels. 16 is equal to b. So now I have my b point. So I can rewrite this and say y is equal to negative 4x plus 16, because that is a positive 16. And then that would be the answer for B. So let's look at C. Going to be the same formula. Y is equal to mx plus b. So we see here where it crosses the y-axis. This one is already giving it to us. It's a negative 5. So y is equal to mx minus 5, because it's a negative 5, right? Now we just need to find our slope. So let's count. And it is going down. So it's negative 1, 2. And it's going to the right 1, 2 spaces. So that's negative 2 over 2 is equal to negative 1. So it's going to be y is equal to negative 1x minus 5. We usually don't write a 1 in front of an x. So y is equal to negative x minus 5 is probably going to be the way it's accepted in the system. If it doesn't take that, then you could put it in with the 1 in front, but it should take it like this. And that's all of them for lesson 75, I believe. If you have any more questions, this is your golden ticket right here. You've got to know the parts. You've got to know that this is the y intercept. That means where it crosses y. The sign goes with the number. If it's a -5, you do -5. If it's a +16, you go +16. If it's a -2, you go -2. Okay, the sign goes with the letter. Whatever the sign of the number is, that is the operation you put here. M is the slope. Draw your pathway. Trace it on the screen or whatever you have to do. Get you some graph paper, or you can take one sheet of notebook paper and another sheet under it and rotate it halfway, and you can see the lines through it, so it makes a grid. So you make your own homemade graph paper. But, draw it out, sketch it. Take you a highlighter or a pencil and count the spaces, okay? Do what you need to do to figure it out. But that is how you find slope. It is y, the movement on the y-axis, over the movement on the x-axis. And denominators in a fraction are always positive. They're never negative. So it's always to the right, to the positive side for x, for the bottom, right? The y movement over the x movement from point to point. And we do that by making a little right triangle and then counting the units on the up and down part for the top and to the right part for the bottom. I'm not sure how many other ways I can say that. If you still have any questions, though, continue to ask until you have clarity. And that's all I've got, and I'll talk to you later.